Kimmy chuckwoke to the weight of gold on her finger and the taste of regret in her mouth. The first thing she registered was silk. Cool, expensive silk sheets that definitely weren't the scratchy hotel linens she'd fallen asleep in. The second was the ring. A thick gold band circled her left ring finger, catching the neon glow of Seoul's skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows she didn't remember requesting. Her head pounded. Her mouth felt like cotton. And she was wearing someone else's shirt. White, oversized, smelling of bergamot and something darker. Dangerous. What happened? Fragments flickered through her mind like a broken film reel, stumbling down a hotel corridor, squinting at room numbers. A door slightly ajar. A man's voice rough with exhaustion or alcohol. Finally, you came. Champagne fizzing in crystal glasses. Strong hands pulling her close. Flashing lights. Cameras. Were those cameras? The bathroom door opened. Kimmy's breath caught. A man emerged through a cloud of steam. Tall, lean, sharp-suited despite the early hour. His face was carved from cold stone, high cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes like black ice. His knuckles, she noticed with a jolt, were the faint white lines of old scars. He paused when he saw her awake. No warmth entered his expression. Good, he said in clipped, precise English. You're awake. We need to talk about our problem. Kimmy's voice cracked. Who are? Her phone erupted. Buzz after buzz, vibrating against the marble nightstand like a swarm of angry bees. She grabbed it with trembling fingers, and her heart stopped. Notifications flooded the screen. Hundreds of them. Twitter, Instagram, Korean news sites she'd never heard of. And there, trending at number 1, Kang Minjun's secret black bride, Mafia heir, weds mysterious foreigner. Below it, a photo. Her face pressed against this stranger's chest. A traditional Korean ceremonial scarf draped over both their heads, his hand on her waist, her eyes closed, lips curved in what looked like bliss. This can't be real. Kimmy looked up at the man, Minjun, apparently. What did you do to me? His expression remained glacial. What did we do? And now we both have to live with it. If you're wondering how survives what comes next, you'll want to stick around. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and comment where you're watching from because what Minjun tells her next will change everything. Trust me, you won't see this coming. The phone call that changed everything came on a Tuesday. Kimmy had been hunched over her laptop in the cramped two-room apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother, surviving on instant noodles and determination. Around her, printed articles about Korean tech giants plastered the walls like desperate prayers. This one assignment, was supposed to be her breakthrough. Emika, turn that down. She called toward the living room where her 16-year-old brother was supposed to be studying, but was definitely watching football highlights. But sister, it's Arsenal. I don't care if it's Beyoncé performing live. I have a call in 5 minutes that could change our lives. It wasn't an exaggeration. When African Voices International had offered her the Seoul assignment, a feature on controversial tech mogul Park Jae-sung and his rumored connections to organized crime, Kimmy had nearly wept. The payment alone would cover 3 months of her mother's medication, maybe even Emika's school fees for next term. She'd worked too hard to let this slip away. 2 degrees earned while working 3 jobs. Years of freelancing for publications that barely paid. Pitches rejected with the same tired refrain. We're looking for more experienced voices. As if experience materialized from thin air rather than from opportunities denied. I didn't come this far to shrink. She'd told herself then, and she told herself now. The call with her editor went well. The flights were booked. By Thursday, Kimmy was on a plane, her first time leaving the African continent, her heart hammering with equal parts terror and exhilaration. 72 hours before the wedding, Seoul hit her like a fever dream. The Incheon airport alone was larger than her entire neighborhood in Lagos. The signs in Hangul looked like beautiful, incomprehensible art. The air smelled different, clean, cold, and laced with something she'd later learn was red bean paste from nearby bakeries. Her hotel, the Sapphire Grand, was far too luxurious for a freelance journalist's budget, but the magazine had insisted. You need to look the part if you're going to interview titans of industry, her editor had said. Kimmy had simply nodded, trying not to calculate how many months of rent this single night cost. Room 806, 8th floor. She memorized it. The first day was a blur of jet lag, bad coffee, and research. Park Jae-sung was more ghost than man in the digital landscape. Few photos, fewer interviews, but plenty of whispers, money laundering, underground gambling, connections to the Kong crime family. That last name kept appearing, Kong. Kemi pulled every article she could find about them. He wouldn't forget it again. Back in Lagos, a phone call late that night, early morning in Seoul. Kemi's phone rang. Sister Emika's voice was bright despite the hour. How is Korea? Have you eaten kimchi? Is it true their internet is so fast you can download movies in seconds? Kemi laughed, warmth flooding her chest. Slow down. And probably yes. How's mama? A pause. Too long. Emika. She's okay. Just tired. The doctors want to try a new treatment. But he didn't finish. He didn't have to. It always came back to money. I'll handle it. Kemi said, her resolve hardening into steel. This story is going to work, I promise. After they hung up, she stared at her notes on Park Jae-sung. Tomorrow she'd make contact. Tomorrow she'd get her interview. Tomorrow she'd prove she belonged in rooms where decisions were made and stories were born. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number, a text message in English. Room 808, 11 p. Tomorrow, Park will talk. Come alone. Kemi's heart raced. This was it. Her breakthrough. She had no way of knowing that room 808 belonged to someone else entirely. Kemi stood outside room 808, her journalist's instinct warring with common sense. The 8th-floor corridor was too quiet, too empty for a hotel this expensive. Soft classical music drifted from hidden speakers. The carpet beneath her feet was so thick it swallowed sound. Everything about this moment felt wrong, but the text message burned in her mind. Park will talk. This was her story, her one chance. The door was ajar, just slightly, as if someone had left it open deliberately. Kemi's heart hammered against her ribs. She knocked softly. Park, it's Kemi Chukwu from African Voices International. No response, but she heard movement inside, a glass clinking, someone breathing. She pushed the door open. The suite was magnificent. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her yearly salary and dim amber lighting that created more shadows than illumination. On the low table sat an expensive bottle of whiskey half empty and a single glass. And slumped on the leather sofa, head in his hands, was a man she'd never seen before, not Park Jae-sung. Someone younger, dangerous-looking even in his disheveled state. Park, she tried again, confused. The man's head snapped up. Even through the alcohol haze in his eyes, Kemi could see he was stunning in a terrifying way. Sharp features, dark eyes that seemed to hold violence and grief in equal measure, and an intensity that made her step backward instinctively. Jun, he whispered, his voice breaking, you came back to me. I'm not. But he was already moving, crossing the space between them with frightening speed. His hands, strong, scarred, gripped her shoulders, and Kemi smelled the whiskey on his breath, saw the desperation in his eyes. I knew you'd come back, he murmured, pulling her close. I knew you wouldn't leave me forever. Sir, I think you're confused. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. 3 years. 3 years I've waited. His forehead dropped to her shoulder, and she felt him shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. This was wrong. All of this was so wrong. I need to leave, Kemi said firmly, pushing against his chest. You're drunk, and I'm in the wrong. The suite door exploded inward. Men in black suits flooded the room. 5, 6, 7 of them moving with military precision. Guns drawn. Shouts in Korean. Hands grabbed her, wrenched her away from the drunk man, slammed her against the wall. Wait, she gasped. I'm a journalist. I'm not assassin. One of them barked in accented English. We've been tracking a hit order. You match the description. I'm Nigerian. I'm here for an interview. But chaos had already erupted. Through the open door, Kemi saw camera flashes, bright, blinding, relentless. Paparazzi. How were paparazzi here? A tall man with intelligent eyes pushed through the security team. He assessed the situation in seconds. The drunk man now being restrained by his own guards. Kemi pinned to the wall, and the cameras capturing everything from the hallway. Boss, he said urgently to the drunk man. Sir, we have a situation. The press is here. If they see you like this with an unknown foreign woman, if they report you were attacked. The drunk man. Boss slurred. Just make them go away. I can't. They've already photographed everything. Hyenwoo's mind was clearly racing. We need damage control now. More flashes, more cameras. Kemi saw hotel staff trying to hold reporters back, but they kept pushing forward, shouting questions in Korean she couldn't understand. Hyunwoo made a decision. Get the monk now. Kemi's blood ran cold. What monk? 10 minutes later, she was standing in a nightmare. The suite had been hastily transformed. Someone had draped a traditional Korean scarf over her head and the drunk man's. An elderly monk in ceremonial robes was chanting words she didn't comprehend. Papers were thrust in front of her. Korean characters swimming before her eyes. Sign, Hyunwoo ordered. It's a standard NDA for your protection. I'm not signing anything. Sign or my men will assume you're the assassin and you'll disappear into a Korean prison where no one will ever find you. His voice was ice. Your choice. Kemi's hands trembled as she signed. What else could she do? Armed men surrounded her. Cameras flashed from the doorway. The drunk man beside her was mumbling Jun's name like a prayer, barely conscious of what was happening. The monk continued his chanting. Hyunwoo barked orders in Korean. Someone produced a set of gold rings. Wait, Kemi tried one last time, but the ring was already sliding onto her finger. The drunk man's hand found hers, warm, strong, ironically gentle despite everything. The monk said something final, definitive, and the cameras captured it all. Present-day morning after, which brought Kemi back to now standing in a stranger's hotel suite, a gold ring on her finger, and her face trending across Korean social media. As a Mafia bride, Minjun, she'd learned his name from the news articles, stood by the window, now sober, impeccably dressed, and utterly terrifying in his composure. Legally binding, he said flatly, without looking at her. Korean law recognizes traditional ceremonies witnessed by a monk and documented with signatures. That's insane. That's reality. Now he turned, and those black eyes held no warmth whatsoever. You have two choices. Choice 1. I pay you 500 million won, about $380,000, and you play my devoted wife for 3 months. Public appearances, family dinners, complete cooperation. After 3 months, we quietly divorce. You take your money and you disappear. Kemi's mind reeled. That money could change everything. Her mother's treatment, Emika's education, years of financial security. And choice 2. His smile was colder than his eyes. There is no choice 2. My enemies already know your face. They think you're my weakness. If I let you walk away, they'll kill you. To prove a point, to show that anything I care about can be destroyed. He stepped closer. You became part of my world the moment you walked through that door. Now you survive it, or you don't. This is kidnapping. This is protection. Don't confuse the two. Kemi wanted to scream, to run, to wake up from this impossible nightmare. But she looked at her phone, at the thousands of comments, some curious, many hateful, a few outright threatening, and realized he was right. She was trapped. 3 months, Minjun said. Then you're free. Those are my terms. And if I refuse, his expression didn't change, then I'll attend your funeral with appropriate grief. Your choice? Kemi looked at the ring on her finger. Beautiful, expensive, and heavy as a chain. Never try to run. Minjun added softly, almost kindly. I'll always find you, and my enemies will find you first. By night, she investigated. Her old laptop, smuggled past security in her luggage, became her weapon. Her press credentials, still technically active, became her key. Something about that night didn't add up. The anonymous text, the unlocked door, the perfectly timed paparazzi. It was too coordinated, too convenient. Someone had wanted her in that room. She started with the text message, room 8081P. The number had been disconnected immediately after, but digital footprints were harder to erase than most people realized, using journalist databases and a few contacts who owed her favors. Kemi traced the burner phone's purchase to electronic shop in Gangnam. Security footage from that day showed a woman making the purchase. Elegant, coldly beautiful, wearing sunglasses but not quite careful enough. Soyoung, Minjun's sister, Kemi's blood ran cold, but she kept digging. Park Jae-sung, the tech mogul she'd originally come to interview, had a surprisingly sparse digital footprint for someone in his industry. But Kemi found a crack, a personal email account linked to an old business registration. The security was laughable compared to his corporate systems. She shouldn't hack it. Was illegal, dangerous, and if caught would destroy what remained of her credibility. She hacked it anyway. The emails loaded and Kemi's world tilted. Months of correspondence with Soyoung, pet names, my love. Soon we'll have everything and worse. Much worse, detailed plans. The Nigerian journalist is perfect. Foreign black conservative family elders will lose their minds. We drug Minjun's whiskey. She walks in on cue. We stage the scandal. He'll look unstable, culturally disloyal, unfit to lead. Soyoung's response. And then I take what should have been mine from the beginning. My fool brother never understood that love is weakness. I'll show them strength. More emails, more plans. The paparazzi had been paid. The monk was legitimate, but had been told it was a surprise wedding for a romantic storyline. Every detail orchestrated. Kimmy had been a pawn, a weapon aimed at destroying the man she was now. God help her. Starting to care about her hands shook as she printed the evidence. Photos, emails, transaction records showing payments to the photographers, the burner phone, even the hotel staff who'd left room 808's door ajar. But showing this to Minjun meant destroying his last remaining family. Soyoung was all he had left after Jun's death, after years of isolation and violence. Could she do that to him? Could she not? Soyoung was still plotting, still dangerous, and Kimmy was still the target. The confrontation that evening. Kimmy found Minjun in the estate's garden. Rare moment of peace in his endless war. We need to talk. He turned, and something in her expression made him go still. She handed him the folder, watched his face as he read, watched denial flash across his features, then disbelief, then something terrible, understanding. His voice was barely a whisper. Soyoung wouldn't. His eyes searched hers looking for deception, finding only truth. His hand came up to cup her face, and her breath caught. You could have hidden this, he whispered. Used it as leverage. Why tell me? Because you deserve to know. And because. The door burst open. Hyunwoo stood there, face grim, breathing hard. Boss, we have a situation. The Black Serpents just declared war. They hit our warehouse in Incheon an hour ago. 3 of our men are dead. Minjun's entire demeanor shifted from vulnerable to lethal in a heartbeat. Casualties on their side. But boss, they're not stopping. They're using your marriage as justification, saying you've disgraced the underground families by marrying outside the culture. They're calling for your removal. Kimmy felt ice in her veins. They knew about Soyoung's plan. Minjun's jaw clenched. They have an insider feeding them information. Someone close. Hyunwoo's eyes widened as understanding dawned. Your sister. Assemble the family council. Minjun ordered. Tomorrow morning, everyone attends. No exceptions. After Hyunwoo left, Minjun turned back to Kimmy. The moment between them was gone, replaced by cold strategy. This war, he said quietly. Soyoung started it, and I'm going to end it. But first, he had to survive the night. The call came at 2 a.m. Kimmy woke to chaos. Alarms blaring, guards running through corridors. Minjun already dressed and armed, his face a mask of controlled fury. Stay in your room, he ordered. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but Hyunwoo. What's happening? The Black Serpents aren't waiting for negotiation. They've hit 3 more locations. His eyes were black ice. This is war. He was gone before she could respond. The hours that followed were torture. Kimmy paced her room, hearing fragments through the walls, shouts in Korean car engines, the ominous sound of weapons being loaded. Her phone, even the monitored one, showed news alerts. Gang violence erupts in Seoul's underground. Foreign bride blamed for territorial war. And then the interview started. Soyoung looking elegant and grief-stricken on morning news programs. My brother has changed, she said, dabbing at dry eyes. This foreign woman has corrupted his judgment. He's abandoned our traditions, our values. The family elders are concerned. I'm concerned. This violence, these deaths, they're happening because he's lost his way. The media ate it up. Social media exploded with racist vitriol aimed at Kimmy. Death threats flooded her inactive accounts. Calls for deportation. Worse, when Minjun finally returned at dawn, he looked like he'd aged years in one night. For dead, he said flatly. 2 of ours, 2 of theirs. The Black Serpents want a meeting, but it's a trap. Soyoung's convinced half the family council I'm unfit to lead. Kimmy reached for him, but he stepped back. I'm sending you back to Nigeria tonight. The words hit like a physical blow. You're not safe here. This war will escalate. They'll target you to hurt me. I won't. His voice broke. I can't lose someone else. So, you're abandoning me after everything. Kimmy's voice rose. I exposed the conspiracy. I helped you see the truth about Soyoung, and now you're just throwing me away. I'm keeping you alive by sending me back to poverty, to wondering every day if one of your enemies tracked me down, to living knowing I was just a contract that expired. Her eyes burned. You're a coward. Minjun flinched as if struck. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. When it gets hard, you run. Just like you've been running from feeling anything since June died. She pulled off the wedding ring, the one she'd worn for 3 weeks, the one that had started to feel real, and threw it at his feet. Fine. I was just a contract anyway. The ring bounced once, twice, settled on the marble floor between them. Minjun stared at it, his face carved from stone. Hyunwoo will take you to a safe house. Your flight leaves tomorrow night. He walked out without looking back. The safe house, Kimi's isolation. The safe house was a sterile apartment in a nondescript building, guarded, isolated, prisoned by another name. Kimi sat on the couch, numb, her suitcase packed beside her. Everything she'd brought to Seoul was there. Her clothes, her laptop, her notes for the article she'd never write. The story of her life, almost successful, almost safe, almost loved. Her phone rang. Emika's sister, we heard about the violence on the news. Are you okay? The men Kong sent. They're scary, but they're protecting us. I'm coming home. Kimi said, her voice hollow. Tomorrow. But what about your big story? Your breakthrough. What about it? She'd been a pawn in someone else's game. Her breakthrough had turned into a nightmare. Sometimes stories don't end the way we hope, she said quietly. After hanging up, she stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment with Minjun, the tea she'd brought him, the almost smile when she'd ordered spicy food, his hand covering hers in the garden. You could have hidden this. Because she'd fallen for him. She'd fallen for a man who pushed her away the moment things got dangerous. Minjun's breaking point, the estate. Minjun sat in his office, the wedding ring in his palm. Around him, reports piled up. Casualties, territorial losses, family members questioning his leadership, Soyoung's manipulations bearing fruit. Everything was falling apart, and he'd pushed away the one person who'd seen past his armor. Even monsters get tired, she'd said. The door opened. Hyunwoo entered without knocking, the privilege of a friend, not just an employee. She's at the safe house. Flight leaves tomorrow at 8 p.m. He paused. You're making a mistake. I'm keeping her alive. No, you're protecting yourself from feeling again. Hyunwoo's voice was sharp. Kimi isn't Jun. She's a fighter. She exposed Soyoung's betrayal. She stood by you when everything went to hell. And you're sending her away because you're scared. You're terrified. I watched you with Jun. When she died, you shut down, built walls, became the Ice King. Hyunwoo leaned forward, but Kimi got through those walls. And instead of letting her fight beside you, you're pushing her away. Is this who Jun would want you to be? A coward who runs when things get hard. Minjun's hand clenched around the ring. If I keep Kimi here, they'll kill her like they killed Jun. If you send her away, you'll lose her anyway. And Soyoung wins. The Black Serpents win. Everyone who wants to destroy you wins. Hyunwoo's voice softened. Or you could trust the woman who walked into hell for you and didn't flinch. Silence filled the office. Minjun looked at the ring, simple gold, but weighted with everything he'd never said. 3 weeks ago, this had been a transaction. Now it was something that terrified him far more than any gang war. The family council meets in 4 hours, he said quietly. What are you going to do? Minjun stood, pocketing the ring. I'm going to get my wife. Kimi's phone lit up with an incoming video call. Emika's face filled the screen, bright-eyed despite the time difference. Concerned in that way only little brothers could be. Sister, you look terrible. Thanks, Emika. That's exactly what I needed to hear. I mean it. The guards Mr. Kong sent won't tell us anything except that you're safe. But the news says there's gang violence, and your face is everywhere, and people are saying horrible things. Kimi cut in. Tomorrow it's over. Emika's expression shifted. Disappointment mixing with something else. Understanding maybe. You're running. I'm surviving. His voice was firm. More man than boy. You taught me never to back down from bullies. Remember when those boys at school said I'd never amount to anything because we were poor? You told me to stand up, use my brain, fight back with truth. He leaned closer to the camera. Don't run now, sister. Not when you have the truth. The words hit like a slap. The package arrived while Minjun was out on business. Kimi signed for it, assuming it was another designer outfit or household delivery. Inside was a plain folder. No note. Just photographs. Her blood turned to ice. Emeka, her baby brother, walking home from school in Lagos outside their apartment building at the market with their mother. Each photo marked with red crosshairs. Precise, professional, terrifying, and a single message. The Black Queen is the weakness. Remove her. Kemi's hands shook so badly she dropped the photos. She tried to hide them, stuff them under her mattress like a child hiding evidence. She'd handled this herself. Call Emeka. Warn him. Figure something out without involving. What are you hiding? Kemi spun to find Minjun in her doorway, his eyes sharp and knowing nothing. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed her wrist, and saw the photo corner peeking out. His face transformed from cold to absolutely murderous. Show me now. She had no choice. Watched as he examined each photograph, his jaw clenching tighter with each one. His shout could have shattered windows. His second-in-command appeared within seconds. Minjun spoke in rapid, furious Korean, showing him the photos. Hyen's expression darkened. Send a team to Lagos. Minjun ordered in English for her benefit. I want 6 men on the family. Round-the-clock protection. No one touches them. No one even looks at them wrong. Minjun Kemi started. He turned to her, and she stepped back from the fury in his eyes. But it wasn't directed at her. No one touches what's mine, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Do you understand? And for the first time since this nightmare began, Kemi didn't correct him. Kemi had never stopped being a journalist. While playing the beautiful wife by day, smiling at cameras, attending charity galas, learning to bow properly at family dinners. By night, she investigated. Her old laptop smuggled past security in her luggage became her weapon. Her press credentials, still technically active, became her key. Something about that night didn't add up. The anonymous text, the unlocked door, the perfectly timed paparazzi. It was too coordinated, too convenient. Someone had wanted her in that room. She started with the text message, room 8081P. The number had been disconnected immediately after, but digital footprints were harder to erase than most people realized using journalist databases and a few contacts who owed her favors. Kemi traced the burner phone's purchase to electronic shop in Gangnam. Security footage from that day showed a woman making the purchase. Elegant, coldly beautiful, wearing sunglasses but not quite careful enough. Soyoung, Minjun's sister, Kemi's blood ran cold, but she kept digging. Park Jae-sung, the tech mogul she'd originally come to interview, had a surprisingly sparse digital footprint for someone in his industry. But Kemi found a crack, a personal email account linked to an old business registration. The security was laughable compared to his corporate systems. She shouldn't hack it. Was illegal, dangerous, and if caught would destroy what remained of her credibility. She hacked it anyway. The emails loaded and Kemi's world tilted. Months of correspondence with Soyoung, pet names, my love. Soon we'll have everything and worse. Much worse, detailed plans. The Nigerian journalist is perfect. Foreign black conservative family elders will lose their minds. We drug Minjun's whiskey. She walks in on cue. We stage the scandal. He'll look unstable, culturally disloyal, unfit to lead. Soyoung's response. And then I take what should have been mine from the beginning. My fool brother never understood that love is weakness. I'll show them strength. More emails, more plans. The paparazzi had been paid. The monk was legitimate, but had been told it was a surprise wedding for a romantic storyline. Every detail orchestrated. Kemi had been a pawn, a weapon aimed at destroying the man she was now. God help her. Starting to care about her hands shook as she printed the evidence. Photos, emails, transaction records showing payments to the photographers, the burner phone, even the hotel staff who'd left room 808's door ajar. But showing this to Minjun meant destroying his last remaining family. Soyoung was all he had left after Jun's death, after years of isolation and violence. Could she do that to him? Could she not? Soyoung was still plotting, still dangerous, and Kemi was still the target. The confrontation that evening. Kemi found Minjun in the estate's garden. Rare moment of peace in his endless war. We need to talk. He turned, and something in her expression made him go still. She handed him the folder, watched his face as he read, watched denial flash across his features, then disbelief, then something terrible, understanding. His voice was barely a whisper. Soyoung wouldn't. Her voice broke. I earned the right to lead. Minjun just inherited it. For a moment, just a moment, Kemi felt a flicker of understanding. She knew what it was like to fight for respect in a world that underestimated you. But then she remembered the deaths, the war, the innocent people caught in Soyang's ambition. You could have challenged him honorably, Kemi said quietly. Instead, you used me as a weapon. You put my family in danger. You started a war that killed people who trusted your family to protect them. Minjun stepped forward, and his voice was arctic. You're no longer part of this family, Soyang. Take your belongings and leave. If you ever return, you'll face justice, both ours and the law's. You can't. I can, and they agree. He gestured to the elders, whose expressions had turned from doubt to disgust. Soyang looked around the room at the family that had rejected her, at Park trying to slip toward the exit, at the brother she'd tried to destroy, and something inside her broke. I hope she destroys you, Soyang spat at Minjun. I hope loving her tears you apart the way losing Jun did. Then she walked out, shoulders straight, defeated, but refusing to show it. Park tried to follow, but Hyenwa's men blocked his path. Park, Minjun said pleasantly. You wanted to take what's mine. My family, my empire, my peace. He nodded to Hyunwoo. You'll pay everything. My lawyers have already filed charges. Embezzlement, conspiracy, fraud, and I have friends in the prosecutor's office who owe me favors. Park was dragged out, protesting in vain. The eldest council member stood. The vote of no confidence is withdrawn. Kong Minjun remains our leader. He turned to Kemi and bowed, a gesture of deep respect. And his wife has proven herself worthy of this family. One by one, the other elders bowed to her. Kemi bowed back, heart pounding with triumph and disbelief. Later, after brokering peace with the Black Serpents, who'd been horrified to learn they'd been manipulated, Minjun and Kemi stood alone in the hall. You saved me, he said quietly. Again, we saved each other. She laced her fingers through his. That's what partners do. He kissed her, then soft and full of promise, in the hall where his family's fate had been decided for generations. This time, the fate they'd chosen was their own. 3 months later, Seoul. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning, and by evening, Kemi Chukwu's name was trending worldwide. The Accidental Bride, How One Woman Exposed Seoul's Underground Conspiracy, won the International Press Freedom Award, the African Journalist Excellence Prize, and a nomination for the Pulitzer. African Voices International didn't just promote her. They created an entire senior correspondent position specifically for her expertise in cross-cultural organized crime and reform. Her phone hadn't stopped ringing with interview requests, speaking engagements, and book deal offers. But the call that mattered most came from Lagos. Sister Emika's face filled her screen, grinning so wide it looked painful. I got the acceptance letter. Full scholarship to Yonsei University Computer Science program. Kemi's eyes filled with tears. She glanced at Minjun, who was reading documents nearby with studied innocence. That's wonderful, Emika. You earned it. The scholarship letter says it's funded by an anonymous donor committed to international education, Emika continued. Any idea who that might be? Minjun didn't look up from his papers, but his lips quirked slightly. No idea, Kemi said, fighting a smile. But I'm grateful to whoever it was. Later that day, another call, this one from her mother, whose voice was stronger than it had been in years. Kemi, my daughter, the doctors say I'm in full remission. The treatments worked. Mama Adana's eyes were bright, and someone paid the remaining bills. Was that you, Mama? Never mind. I know it was your husband. That man. Her mother's expression turned stern. Put him on. Kemi handed the phone to Minjun, whose confidence visibly wavered. Adana, he said carefully. It's an honor. You take care of my daughter. Mama Adana interrupted, her voice carrying the authority of mothers everywhere. Or you answer to me. I don't care how powerful you are in Korea. Understood. Minjun's smile was genuine, warm, the smile he now wore freely. Yes, ma'am. I understand completely. After the call ended, Kemi wrapped her arms around him. Scared of my mother. Terrified. She's scarier than any crime boss I've faced. The ceremony was everything the first one wasn't. Chosen, intimate, and filled with love. They blended traditions beautifully. The Nigerian kola nut ceremony, where Minjun formally asked for Kemi's hand, followed by the Korean paebik, where Kemi bowed to the family elders who now respected her completely. Hyunwoo stood as best man. Reformed family members attended with genuine smiles, and Emeka joined via video call threatening to fly to Seoul immediately to inspect his new brother-in-law. When it came time for vows, Kimmy took Minjun's hands and spoke from her heart. "I walked into the wrong room," she said, voice steady despite her tears, "and found the right person. You taught me that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about choosing love, even when fear tells you to run." Minjun's thumb brushed away a tear from her cheek. "You taught me that love isn't a weakness. It's the only thing worth protecting. It's the only thing that makes us truly strong." They kissed as husband and wife. Truly, finally, completely. 6 months later, Seoul glittered beneath them, a city of endless lights and infinite possibilities. Minjun had spent the past months systematically legitimizing the family business, divesting from illegal operations, investing in legal enterprises, using his influence for reform rather than control. It was slow, dangerous work, but Kemi stood beside him every step, her journalism exposing the corruption he dismantled. "Think we'll have a boring life now?" Kemi asked, leaning against the railing. Minjun pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her waist. "With you." She turned in his embrace, and her smile was radiant. "Good, because I just got assigned a story about human trafficking networks in Southeast Asia, and I might need a consultant with underground connections. Might need, or definitely need. Interested?" His kiss was her answer, deep and full of promise, and the kind of partnership that transformed two broken people into something unbreakable. As they stood there wrapped in each other and the Seoul night, Kimmy thought about fate and chance, and wrong turns that led to right destinations. Sometimes the wrong door leads you exactly where you need to be. If this story of courage, love, and second chances moved you, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing for more incredible tales. Drop a comment below telling us what would you do if you accidentally walked into the wrong room and woke up married to a stranger. Share your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our next story. Until next time, remember, sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest love stories. But their story was far from over. The months that followed tested everything they'd built together. Kemi's integration into Korean society proved more challenging than either had anticipated. The cultural divide felt vast some days, despite her growing fluency in the language and customs. At formal family dinners, she still struggled with the intricate hierarchy of respect, the subtle cues that determined speaking order, the ancient traditions that governed every gesture. Minjun's grandmother, a formidable woman in her 80s who had survived the Korean War, watched Kemi with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She spoke little English and seemed determined to test whether this foreign bride truly understood what it meant to be part of their lineage. The business transformation proved equally complex. Minjun's systematic legitimization of family operations faced resistance at every turn. Old guard members who had profited from decades of illegal enterprises pushed back against reform. Some threatened defection to rival organizations. Others simply disappeared in the night, taking secrets and connections with them. Hyunwoo worked 18-hour days managing the transition, coordinating with lawyers and government officials who demanded evidence of genuine change before granting the legitimacy Minjun sought. Kemi found herself caught between worlds in ways she hadn't expected. Her journalism career flourished internationally, but Korean media remained divided about her presence. Progressive outlets celebrated her as a bridge between cultures, a symbol of modern Korea's global aspirations. Conservative voices questioned whether someone who had exposed family secrets could ever truly be trusted with the nation's most powerful criminal organization, even one attempting reform. The scrutiny was relentless, photographers trailing her to grocery stores, commentators analyzing her clothing choices for cultural sensitivity. 3 months after their real wedding, Mama Adana arrived in Seoul for an extended visit. Kemi's mother had recovered completely from her illness, her strength returning with each treatment Minjun had quietly funded. But adapting to her daughter's new life proved overwhelming. The luxury of the estate felt alien to someone who had raised 2 children in a two-room Lagos apartment. The armed security, the formal protocols, the constant awareness that danger lurked beneath the surface of their beautiful life, all of it frightened her in ways she struggled to express. "Your husband is kind," Mama Adana told Kemi one evening as they sat in the garden where Minjun had first shown vulnerability. But this world he comes from, this violence that follows him even as he tries to leave it behind. I fear for you, my daughter. I fear for the grandchildren you might give me in this place where love and death dance so closely together. Kemi understood her mother's concerns because she shared them. Every morning brought news of Minjun's former associates meeting violent ends, casualties of the power vacuum his transformation had created. Rival families moved to absorb territories he'd abandoned, sparking conflicts that painted Seoul's underworld in blood. The guilt weighed heavily on both of them. They had chosen love and legitimacy, but others paid the price for their moral awakening. Emika's arrival for summer break brought unexpected joy to the household. Her younger brother, now 18 and preparing for university, adapted to Seoul with the flexibility of youth. He spent hours with Minjun, learning Korean business practices and technology applications that fascinated his computer science mind. Minjun, who had never imagined himself in a mentoring role, discovered unexpected pleasure in teaching someone who looked at him without fear or calculation. Emika saw only his sister's husband, a brilliant strategist who had chosen to use his talents for good. But Emika's presence also highlighted the distances that remained. Video calls with old friends and Lagos became stilted affairs where he struggled to explain his new reality. His sister had married into Korean royalty of sorts, but criminal royalty nonetheless. The moral complexities of their situation couldn't be easily summarized for teenagers whose biggest concerns involved school examinations and football matches. The real test came when Soyoung attempted her return. 6 months after her exile, she appeared at the estate's gates with a team of lawyers and a carefully crafted media strategy. Her approach was subtle, designed to exploit the very legitimacy Minjun sought. She claimed rehabilitation, insisted she had severed all ties with Park Jae-sung, who now faced multiple criminal charges, and demanded restoration to the family based on blood rights that predated her brother's marriage to a foreigner. Korean law, she argued through her legal representatives, recognized traditional inheritance structures that couldn't be simply dismissed because Minjun had chosen Western notions of romantic love over familial duty. Her attorneys filed petitions challenging everything from the validity of Kemi's marriage to Minjun's authority to exclude blood relatives from family business decisions. They questioned whether someone not born into the culture could ever truly understand the obligations that came with leading a Korean dynasty, even a reformed one. The legal challenges created new pressures within the organization. Some members who had accepted Minjun's reforms began questioning whether his foreign wife might eventually inherit authority over Korean traditions she couldn't possibly comprehend. Others worried that Soyoung's claims, however legally baseless, might provide ammunition for rivals seeking to destabilize their transition to legitimacy. Kemi faced a choice that cut to the heart of everything she believed about herself. She could step back, reduce her public profile, allow Minjun to handle family politics without her direct involvement. It would be safer, simpler, more traditionally Korean in its approach to gender roles and family hierarchy. Or she could fight, using every skill she developed as a journalist to expose Soyoung's continued connections to criminal enterprises, her ongoing attempts to manipulate family dynamics for personal gain. The investigation that followed tested every relationship Kemi had built in Seoul. She needed sources within Korean society who could provide information about Soyoung's activities, but approaching them meant asking Korean citizens to potentially betray someone they saw as more culturally legitimate than herself. Some doors that had slowly opened to her closed again. Business associates who had begun treating her as Minjun's equal suddenly remembered she was an outsider who could never fully understand their world. Hyunwoo proved instrumental in navigating these treacherous waters. His loyalty to Minjun was absolute, but his understanding of Korean culture provided insights Kemi couldn't access alone. He helped her identify which family members genuinely supported their reforms and which merely waited for opportunities to restore the old order. His connections within Seoul's legitimate business community opened doors that might have remained closed to a foreign journalist, however accomplished. The evidence Kemi assembled painted a disturbing picture of Soyoung's exile activities. Rather than seeking genuine rehabilitation, she had spent 6 months building alliances with other displaced criminal elements, creating a shadow network aimed at reclaiming power through violence if legal channels failed. Her rehabilitation claims were elaborate fiction, supported by forged documents and paid testimonials from supposed community service organizations. More troubling were Soyoung's connections to international criminal syndicates seeking entry into Korean markets. Her plan went beyond simple family restoration. She intended to modernize and expand criminal operations using global partnerships that would make Minjun's old organization look primitive by comparison. The foreign elements she courted specialized in human trafficking, cybercrime, and pharmaceutical smuggling, enterprises that would bring unprecedented violence to Korean society. Presenting this evidence required careful strategy. Korean media outlets that might publish such revelations without verification could inadvertently damage the legitimate businesses Minjun was building. International publications might sensationalize the story in ways that reflected poorly on Korea itself. Kemi needed an approach that exposed Soyoung's dangerous activities while protecting the country and culture that had become her adopted home. The solution came through collaboration with Korean investigative journalists who had spent years documenting the transformation of organized crime in their country. Working together, they created a comprehensive report that positioned Soyoung's activities within broader patterns of international criminal expansion. The story became less about family drama and more about national security, Korean sovereignty, and the importance of supporting legitimate reformation efforts. The publication of this investigation marked a turning point in how Korean society viewed Kemi's role. Conservative commentators who had questioned her cultural legitimacy began acknowledging her contributions to Korean security. The evidence she had assembled helped authorities identify and dismantle criminal networks that threatened far more than the Kang family's peaceful transition. Minjun's response to the crisis revealed depths of character that even Kemi hadn't fully recognized. Rather than simply using the evidence to destroy Soyoung's legal challenges, he made a final attempt at genuine reconciliation. He visited his sister privately, accompanied only by Hyunwoo, and offered her one last opportunity to choose family over ambition. The conversation, which lasted 3 hours, covered decades of sibling rivalry, their parents' deaths, the isolation that had shaped both their lives, and the different ways they had responded to power and responsibility. Minjun acknowledged his own failures as an older brother, moments when his protection had felt more like control, times when his certainty had left no room for Soyoung's different vision of their family's future. But acknowledgement of past mistakes couldn't overcome present realities. Soyoung's response revealed the fundamental difference between them. Where Minjun had learned to see power as responsibility, she continued to view it as personal entitlement. Where he had discovered love as a source of strength, she remained convinced it was weakness that enemies would exploit. The conversation ended with mutual understanding of their incompatible worldviews. The legal resolution came swiftly after Soyoung's international criminal connections became public knowledge. Her attorneys withdrew all challenges, her media strategy collapsed, and Korean authorities issued warrants for her arrest on charges ranging from conspiracy to treason. She fled the country before the warrants could be executed, disappearing into networks that specialized in protecting fugitive criminals from international justice. Minjun's reaction to his sister's final betrayal surprised even Kemi. Rather than anger or grief, he expressed something approaching relief. The uncertainty was over. The choice between family loyalty and moral responsibility had been made clearly and definitively. He could now focus entirely on building something worthy of the legitimate life he and Kemi envisioned together. The wedding renewal ceremony they held 6 months later celebrated more than their marriage. It marked the completion of Minjun's transformation from criminal heir to legitimate businessman, Kemi's evolution from outsider to integral part of Korean society, and their joint commitment to building bridges between cultures while maintaining respect for both traditions. The ceremony itself reflected everything they had learned about balancing different worlds. Nigerian traditions were woven seamlessly with Korean customs, creating something new while honoring both histories. Emeka performed traditional Korean tea service for Minjun's grandmother, who responded by teaching him ancient family recipes that had been passed down through generations of Korean women. Mama Adana, who had initially struggled with Seoul's overwhelming modernity, found unexpected kinship with Minjun's grandmother through their shared experiences of raising children in dangerous times. Their conversations, conducted through translation and gesture when words failed, created bonds that transcended cultural and linguistic barriers. The business empire Minjun built in the years that followed became a model for how criminal organizations could successfully transition to legitimacy. His security consulting firm specialized in corporate intelligence and protection services, using skills developed in the underworld to help legitimate businesses navigate dangerous international markets. The technology investments he made, guided by Emika's growing expertise in cybersecurity, generated profits that funded educational scholarships and community development programs in both Korea and Nigeria. Kemi's journalism evolved to focus on the intersection of organized crime and international development. Her expertise in Korean criminal culture, combined with her understanding of African economic challenges, positioned her uniquely to document how criminal networks exploited developing economies and what strategies proved most effective in disrupting these relationships. Her work influenced policy at United Nations level, helping craft international responses to transnational organized crime that considered cultural context alongside enforcement priorities. Their first child, a daughter they named both Korean and Nigerian names to reflect her dual heritage, arrived 2 years after the wedding renewal. Minjun's transformation into fatherhood amazed everyone who had known him during his criminal years. The man who had once commanded through fear now devoted endless patience to late-night feedings, diaper changes, and the countless small defeats that come with caring for infant life. Kemi's experience of Korean motherhood revealed new dimensions of cultural integration. Traditional postpartum practices, unfamiliar at first, provided unexpected sources of support and community. Minjun's grandmother, who had watched her foreign granddaughter-in-law with such initial skepticism, became her fiercest ally in navigating the complex expectations surrounding Korean child-rearing. The challenges they faced were real and ongoing. Prejudice against mixed-race children in Korean society required constant vigilance and advocacy. International criminals occasionally sought revenge against Minjun's family for his cooperation with authorities during his transition to legitimacy. The demands of maintaining businesses across multiple countries while raising children created logistical complexities that tested even their strong partnership. But these difficulties were balanced by rewards neither had anticipated. Their daughter's first words were spoken in 3 languages, Korean, English, and Igbo, reflecting the multicultural environment they had created. Family gatherings brought together Nigerian aunts and Korean cousins, creating relationships that enriched everyone involved. Business partnerships developed between Korean and African companies, facilitated by the cultural bridges Minjun and Kemi had built through their own unlikely love story. 5 years after that wrong door had brought them together, they stood once again on the balcony overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Their daughter slept peacefully inside, watched over by 3 grandmothers who had found common ground in their shared love for the next generation. Emika, now a successful cybersecurity entrepreneur with offices in both Seoul and Lagos, would arrive tomorrow with his own Korean girlfriend, continuing the cultural exchanges their marriage had initiated. "You know what I think about sometimes," Kemi said, leaning into Minjun's embrace. "That text message that brought me to room 808. We never did find out who really sent it." Minjun was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "Does it matter now? Maybe fate needed a little help that night." She turned to look at him, seeing in his face the man she had discovered beneath the monster others feared. The scars were still there, on his knuckles and in his memories, but they had become part of a larger story about redemption and love transforming lives in ways no one could have predicted. "Sometimes," she said, "I think about the Kemi who was supposed to get on that plane back to Lagos. The one who was supposed to take the money and disappear. I wonder what her life would have looked like." Minjun's arms tightened around her. "I think," he said quietly, "she would have always wondered what might have been. And we would have been 2 people living half-lives, never knowing we were incomplete." Their story had become legend in certain circles, told and retold as proof that love could emerge from the most impossible circumstances, that people could change fundamentally when given reasons worth changing for, that cultural differences could become sources of strength rather than division when approached with genuine respect and patience. But standing there in the Seoul night, Surrounded by the life they had built together, they knew their story was ultimately simpler than any legend. It was about two broken people who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk toward the light together, carrying the scars of their pasts but refusing to be defined by them. The wrong door had led to exactly the right place, and every day since, they had chosen to walk through it again.